So I was born in 1990, so that was like a couple of days after the north and south of Yemen had like unified. At the time, that was like when people in Yemen really had aspirations and felt really like very very optimistic about the future of the country. And so I don't know, I kind of like was always considered a child that was like born along with unity. In the year 2000, my mom had been appointed ambassador of Yemen to the Netherlands, and she was appointed as the first woman to be so in Yemen. After that, she had also held multiple big positions in the Yemeni government. I'm quite proud of her because not many Yemeni women actually get the chance to read or write, or even a chance to even like work in the same place as a man. Quite, so she's always been a source of inspiration. She had helped me see the world. We went to the Netherlands with her, and then she got appointed to the United Nations as Assistant Secretary General and Director for the United Nations Development Program in the Middle East for about 7 years. And because of her experiences, and I had also gained like a very international, I guess, identity. Um, and so right now I hold a master's in global affairs that focuses on international security and conflict resolution, held from the American University in Cairo. I reside in Cairo. Right before this, I was living in New York for about 7 years or so. I was working for for the Yemeni mission to the United Nations. At that time, I had finished my bachelor's degree, and it was a couple of years after, and then I had a work permit that was granted to me from a student visa process. And so I was like, after that, I used that to work for the mission of Yemen to the United Nations. After my visa or my work permit actually had finished, I discussed with my family, all right, so my visa's finishing, and I need to like go on with my life, and I don't want to do anything that is illegal because that wouldn't really help my case. At that time, it was actually the beginning of the war in Yemen, so things like really were not that clear. We did not really understand how bad the Yemeni nationality or the Yemeni citizenship would just be looked or viewed by international travel and all that stuff. And so I decided that okay, well, my visa is expiring. I should be a law-abiding person, and I'll go to Cairo, and that over there they don't really require a visa for me to enter, and I'll be close to Yemen just in case the war ends or whatever. I can at least return. When I came to Egypt, I was hoping that even travel would just be easy in that, but at that point, because things had just began unfolding and it wasn't really clear where the country was going, people weren't sure. Oh, these airstrikes in Yemen, was it going to be like a huge operation like this? With people thought it was going to be just few airstrikes and it might stop in that. So at that point, actually, there were about 300,000 Yemenis stranded in international ports trying to get back or out of Yemen somehow because governments were just rushing to see, oh, what do we do about this situation? So every country that you thought you could travel to or something like that had slowly just switched this, policies regarding these individuals. And so as soon as I arrived here, I did not expect it was going to be this difficult, and I didn't expect it to like, just change this hard. I feel like really restricted in terms. I mean, like right now that I'm in Egypt, also, Egypt's being restricted. The whole world is being really restrictive. Yemenis, in general, they don't have, there's no refugee crisis that is coming out of Yemen, which is surprising because Yemen is probably going through one of the roughest patches that the world has ever seen. And it's considered to be the world's worst humanitarian disaster. It's considered to be the world's worst famine. I mean, these are ridiculous numbers. There's cholera outbreaks that have hit 1 million people. It's just unheard of and just so medieval. Um, and in World War One and World War Two, whenever people really needed refuge from these areas, the United States and the world, all over the world, people were welcoming to all ethnicities, helping them from wars. At the moment, right now, what we're seeing in the war in Yemen, I mean, even the countries that are the most close to Yemen, the countries that are involved in Yemen and should have a responsibility, have also basically made it very difficult for Yemenis to travel or even have some sort of dignity while they're abroad. Yemen right now has about 3 million people that are like internally displaced, which is a huge number if you really think about it, because the country has no infrastructure for people to have homes. And mind you, for these kind of like new settlements of people that the Yemenis are completely constrained. The borders are closed. Saudi Arabia is not letting any Yemeni people in. The United Arab Emirates has completely banned Yemenis from entering their country. And I think you may be able to reach Oman from the east, but that's a really, really treacherous journey because Al Qaeda is all over the eastern provinces. And I've always said to myself, I mean, what was the worst thing that like Yemenis ever done? I mean, there's a huge Yemeni community here, there's a huge Yemeni community in New York. They tend to be very, very pacifist in most cases. Obviously, nobody is guilty of everything and nobody's perfect of everything. I mean, and obviously, Yemen is known as a hotbed for terrorism, quoting many, many sources. I don't really recall any Yemeni in the past 6 or 7 years being anywhere um, doing anything. Have been cases of a threat of terrorism coming out of Yemen that is not indigenous to Yemen. So I just wish people would kind of like see through them. And I was, yeah, I mean, yeah, it's ridiculous. I mean, so in the Middle East, in Egypt, I mean, Yemenis can enter and exit Egypt with no problems whatsoever for a long time, and then suddenly these treaties and pacts were just completely neglected. People are just like, forgetting the ideals of what it felt like to take in refugees or people that came from, struggling places that were capable and everything like that, or not even capable. And so there's a bit of a hypocrisy in the world today where it's kind of like, oh, they're Arab or they're coming from this kind of Muslim country. Like, yeah, let them die. But if they're kind of like white, we should welcome them. Um, and so it's kind of making me want to go to these white places and get that nationality so I can be sort of free to travel the world, explore the world, and continue my projects that I've been working on in my life that I can't really continue from here in Egypt. I think it's almost impossible. I mean, it is impossible for Yemen to ever return to the way it was. And this was also very clear in the 90s to most Yemenis, at least to the ones that understood exactly what politically was happening. There is, I think, absolutely a huge and wonderful chance for a conflict resolution that can occur in Yemen. I genuinely think that Yemenis can even do this without the help of foreign interventions or foreign mediators and negotiators. So the longer these foreign powers are involved, then at that point it's not the question about Yemenis. It's that then how do you guarantee these people that are that have foreign interest in Yemen at this point that Yemenis have allowed also for them to have interest in Yemen? How do we solve their problems? This is why also like Syria is extremely complicated. And so I have no doubt in my mind that Yemenis could obviously not return things to the way they were, but at least end the war, maybe, have a division again along the north and south border that they had in the past. It's quite remarkable how Yemenis and are surviving. I mean, there's literally no services being applied. The president of Yemen, or rather the internationally recognized president of Yemen, is in Saudi Arabia and cannot return to Yemen. The south is controlled ultimately by the United Arab Emirates. The north is controlled by the Houthi rebels, which people claim are backed by the Iranians, which I think is true to a lot of extents. Um, and between Yemenis, the Houthis, and the Southerners, they can live. It's fine. But if it's Saudi Arabians and the Iranians, they're not going to let go. It's just going to get dirtier and uglier by the day.